You may not be interested in strategy, but strategy is interested in you. The Red Knight is the name given to the goddess of strategy, of planning, and of battle tactics. She is also known as the Lady of Strategy, as the Grand Master of the Lance Board, as the Crimson General, as the Red Lady, and sometimes as the Red Lord. No one knows her true name, and it is said that should anyone ever learn her identity, they would gain insight into every plot and stratagem throughout the realms. The Red Lady is always armed and ready for battle in her blood-red full-plate mail. Depending upon her intent, she may cover her face beneath an impassive full-faced helm, or else she may let her long dark hair fall free about her shoulders. Even then, her eyes burn like red rubies, piercing your very soul. Her regard is calm and logical, as her bearing commands respect. She rarely raises her voice, and yet her serious demeanor should not be mistaken for coldness, as she throws back her head and laughs uproariously at a clever joke or a thrilling competition. Whilst very little is known about the Red Knight's origins, it is often believed that she was chosen by Tempus, the god of war, to balance out the bloodthirstiness of Garagos, the god of berserkers. During the time of troubles, she entered the body of one of her worshippers, known as Lady Caitlin Tyndall Bloodhawk, who was the leader of an adventuring company known as the Company of the Red Falcon. Thus, she made Lady Bloodhawk into her avatar. During this period, the Company of the Red Falcon traveled to the kingdom of Tethir and earned their fame by defeating a great army of invading monsters. Upon returning from battle, Lady Bloodhawk found her ancestral home destroyed and set to work immediately, rebuilding it as a fort that came to be known as the Citadel of Strategic Militancy, the center of worship for the Red Knight's faithful. Today, Lady Bloodhawk's adventuring company has become a knightly order, the Order of the Red Falcon, which trains the paladins who serve the Red Lady. Meanwhile, within the city of Ankh-Pur, within the Lake of Steam region, the Red Knight has long been considered the patron and the protector of the royal family. This changed, however, in the year 1366, when the throne changed hands and the new king, Janol Famiso, a former crime lord, chose to venerate Lathander, the god of renewal, instead. Interestingly, some folk within Ankh-Pur worship the Red Knight as a masculine deity, although she is recognized as feminine in all other kingdoms. Although she takes no pleasure in it whatsoever, the Red Knight is perfectly willing to sacrifice any one of her pawns for a greater strategic advantage. She respects loyalty and rewards it thusly, as she punishes capriciousness. When she is not engaged in strategy, the Red Lady can be found at the side of Tempus, joking, feasting, hunting, or training together. Of all of the gods of Faerun, she is closest to Tempus. The two are inseparable, and she seems to regard him as something of a father figure, as he alone knows her true identity. This paternal regard is fully reciprocated, as he is fond, protective, and encouraging of his protege. Another close ally of the Red Knight is Valkyr, the god of sailors, whom she has taken under her wing, helping him to become more responsive to his followers and encouraging him to take a greater role in naval warfare. Likewise, she works very well with Torm, the god of duty, and the two have become fast friends. It is believed that Torm first approached the Red Lady at the behest of his lord Tyr, the god of justice, to bend her ear towards taking a greater interest in upholding the law. But as the Red Knight and Torm became closer, some have begun to theorize that they are in fact secret lovers. As for enemies, she is naturally opposed to Garagos for their antithetical domains, and while the two have never actually crossed swords, they keep their distance from one another. Her greatest enemy, however, is Cyric, the god of lies. Not only does she regard him as an honorless, spineless wretch, but at times she has grimly joked that she could overlook his treachery if only his schemes were halfway competent. The Red Knight does not have her own divine realm per se, but rather she has full reign to inhabit Warrior's Rest on the first layer of the plane of Asgard, which is ruled by Tempus, and is home to all of the greatest warriors in history. The Red Knight is a demigod, and her lawful neutral alignment reflects her methodical approach to warfare. She grants a broad range of specialties to her clerics, including the order, the trickery, or the war domains. And whilst they will almost always turn and destroy undead, in some rare and extreme circumstances she may grant a single cleric the power to rebuke and command undead instead, if it serves a greater good. Her favoured weapon is a longsword known as Checkmate, and her divine casters all train in the longsword as well. Her holy time is the night as a time of reflection, and her divine casters will pray for spells before going to bed, so that they are ready to fight first thing in the morning. Followers of the Red Knight are known as the Red Fellowship, and they include military commanders, teachers, historians, politicians, lawful warriors, and even some gamblers. Central to their philosophy is a kind of chivalric modesty where, no matter how grand their victory, they will never accept praise. Rather, they will give all credit to the grace of the Red Lady. The Red Fellowship are also famous for their interest in games of skill and chance, in particular the lance board, from which their goddess's holy symbol is derived. They are allowed to keep any winnings they make from games of chance, but any coins they win through games of skill are expected to be donated to the goddess by leaving them on church altars, which are later collected by the clergy. The greatest offering they can give, however, is a brand new game designed by the worshipper, especially if its rules are challenging, fair, and fun. If no shrines are available, worshippers may bury a donation beside a symbol of the goddess. Some will carry lance boards with red knight pieces for this very purpose, whilst others shall simply carve her insignia onto a piece of bark. The ground where the donation is buried shall then be consecrated with a single drop of the worshipper's blood. When members of the Red Fellowship suffer defeat due to their own mistakes, or when they are otherwise outwitted, they shall perform a ritualistic penance to meditate upon their mistakes. They shall begin by wounding themselves with a jagged shard taken from a piece of broken armor, and then place it upon an altar. They shall then recite a prayer, and never shall they bind the wound until the prayer is complete. The piece of armor used in this rite must be of a reasonable quality, which leads to some followers keeping a collection of appropriate shards from their defeated foes, just in case. Personal prayers to the Red Knight will often begin with invocations such as, "O Lady of Clear Calm," or "Great Lady of Blood-Red Armor," with official rites taking on a somewhat more formal tone, such as, "O Lady whose armor is drenched in blood for us." Yet some of the Red Knight's most favored worshippers are given a secret name to be used in prayer, repeated back to her alone. These names are different to every person, but will always imply a great level of trust bestowed upon them by the goddess. In addition to celebrating all of Tempus's holy days, the Red Fellowship has 2 yearly events of their own. The first is called the Retreat, and it shall take place upon the midwinter holiday. It is a serious occasion where the faithful and the clergy shall gather to analyze the past year's victories and defeats. Scribes shall record the outcomes of these discussions, and those records shall be stored within temples for the clergy to include within church teachings. The second event is a more joyous affair, known as the Queen's Gambit, occurring on the first day of the month of Tarsak. This day-long festival includes gaming and feasting, centering around a highly publicized lance board tournament where the victors are showered with fame, with recognition, with promotions, titles, and sometimes even a gift from the temple armory. The clergy of the Red Knight are known as holy strategists, and they include clerics, monks, crusading knights, and paladins. They serve throughout the realms as soldiers, as mercenaries, as military commanders, as trainers of new recruits, and as overseers of all of the material required for war. High-ranking clergy shall often write treatises of war from their own experience, which are highly sought after. One such book is called Master Tactician, Magic to Aid in the Art of War, by the mercenary commander Nikos Nathos, which contains the secret magic used by the holy strategists. Being mostly abjuration magic, but also including a spell that is used to analyze the strengths and the weaknesses of an opponent. Another duty of the clergy is to collect alms for the church, and thus any holy strategist may be approached at any time by those wishing to make a donation to ensure victory. The priest must hold on to the donation until they reach a temple, causing many to be on guard, expecting unscrupulous folk to see them as a walking source of easy gold. Holy strategists share their lay fellowship's love of gaming, but they tend to avoid games of chance. They are so closely allied with the Church of Tempus that to many they will seem to be no more than just a holy order within Tempus's faith. Yet, behind the scenes, there is a lot of friction and robust debate between the churches, for the former's tendency to rush headlong into battle, while the latter prefers to wait for the perfect moment to strike. For their clerical vestments, holy strategists wear flowing red robes with the shade of red denoting their rank, with initiates coloured so dark as to almost appear black, and high-ranked individuals would be draped in a stunning crimson hue. Their holy symbols are usually carved from red semi-precious gemstones, but silver is also acceptable. For formal ceremonies, they will don red enameled sets of full plate or half plate armor, topped off with an ornate full-faced helm and a pure white surcoat worn atop the breastplate. When adventuring, they are likewise encouraged to use the best quality armor that they can afford and to keep it spotlessly clean. Likewise, they will all carry an emblazoned shield or a banner to serve as a rallying point for their allies. This need not necessarily display the Red Knight's insignia, as a personal heraldry is perfectly acceptable, though it is permitted for them to conceal all identifying marks if it offers a strategic advantage. Holy strategists of all classes follow a uniform ranking system. The lowest rank is Page, which usually describes children not yet of age who have begun their apprenticeship in the martial arts of war. Next is Squire, being a fully capable warrior who serves a knight and awaits their chance to be distinguished in battle, of which some shall wait their entire lives for the opportunity. Next is a knight who may be landed or unlanded, meaning either duty-bound to protect a piece of land, or simply a questing knight who roams freely. Above them are ascending ranks of prestige in the orders of knighthood. A knight quartermaster, for example, is responsible for the purchasing and the supply of goods for battle, whilst knight commanders and knight captains will lead whole divisions or whole armies into campaign. Above them are the various ranks of noble knights who must maneuver amidst court politics and whose stratagems often involve whole nations, being Lord Knight Commandant, and finally Lord Knight of the Red Standard, who is the head of the church. Traditionally, female holy strategists have included a gendered distinction in their knightly title, being called Lady Knight, but this is falling out of favour, as many quite rightly point out that if their goddess can adopt masculine titles without compromising her femininity, then so can they. The worship of the Red Knight is most closely associated with Western Faerun, in particular the Sword Coast and the Western Heartlands. But this belies the appeal that she holds to many militaristic societies across the continent. For example, she has strong ties to the border kingdoms by the Lake of Steam, and likewise among the city-states of Chesenta she inspires many great warriors. She is one of the very few non-Mulhorandi deities to be routinely worshipped within Great Mulhorand, and she is even followed by the fierce Tweegan horsemen of the Hordelands, beside their own sky gods. The headquarters of her faith, the Citadel of Strategic Militancy, is located in Baldur's Gate, which includes the Red War College for the training of knights and miles of surrounding farmland. Another powerful stronghold is called the House of Strategy in Ankapur within the Lake of Steam region. Likewise, the Red Temple of War is located in Cormira, the capital city of Tweegan territory within the Hordelands. She also has a temple named after her in Simbar, the capital city of Chesenta. Her most famous knightly order is the Order of the Red Falcon, which includes nearly all of her paladins. Another is a group of 40-strong knights known as the Griffin Knights, who are responsible for guarding the town of Alamontir in the Border Kingdoms. Finally, she also inspires a group of Tweegan riders of the Hordelands who call themselves the Order of the Red Hound, who train massive warhounds to follow their steeds into battle. In my world, the southern Sword Coast is embroiled in a multi-layered game of chess, where the armies of the Underdark face off against the empires of man. Relying upon the element of surprise, the fanatics of Selvatarm, the drow god of warriors, launched a blitzkrieg assault to push up the coast, encircling the fortified monastery of Candlekeep. Then, the faithful of Veyron, the drow god of intrigue, set about infiltrating the great library, poisoning the mind of the first reader, being the head priest of the library, to negotiate a surrender to ensure the safety of the knowledge contained within those hallowed halls. But the presence within that library of the exiled Archmage Magnus the Great, whiling away his senior years in study, threw a wrench into their plans. Refusing to allow the library to fall, the Archmage split his mind into separate pieces to divide up the labor of concentrating upon a series of protective spells spread all around the library. An attempt to assassinate the Archmage failed when he froze time around himself just before the moment of his death, allowing adventurers to enter his mind and to do battle against his own demons of self-doubt, convincing the Archmage to fight on. Reinvigorated with hope, and using the last charge on a ring of wishes he was gifted long ago, Magnus restored himself to youthful vitality. Then he swiftly did away with the assassin and ousted the corrupted First Reader, taking over command of Candlekeep's defenses himself. Though the Dark Elves still probe his magic, Magnus has frustrated any attempts at storming the walls by inviting a powerful vampire lord to take up residence within the fortress's outer defenses to raise all casualties of the war as undying soldiers to ensure that the elves cannot gain a foothold. Meanwhile, in Baldur's Gate to the north, a reinforcing army prepares to march southward under the Raven's Banner Crusade. Seeing that the Underdark creatures require the darkness of night to make their territorial advances, the Church of the Red Knight has established a barricade of daylight spells to stall them, buying time for the crusade to muster. Many crusaders report seeing a ghostly shape of a woman in full armor standing over their camps, guiding and protecting them. This visage the heretics of the Western Heartlands identify as Andurus, the Sura of Justice. But those who keep true to the old faith see the Red Lady herself, watching over their pilgrimage to war. The ever-changing stratagems of the Red Lady make these very sound observations. Victory comes to those who focus upon planning ahead, and to those who practice strategy and tactics daily, not to those who rely on overwhelming numbers. But one should always remember that through the aid of good fortunes, any fool may achieve a temporary victory, but only the strategically minded may hold on to it. For wars are rarely defined by the outcome of any one battle, and thus losing an engagement may yet open the way towards winning a war. And therefore, one should study not only their opponent's weaknesses, but their own shortcomings as well, so that they may choose the battlefield that plays to their own advantage. For victory is a dance between your strengths and your opponent's shortcomings. And even in the peace of victory, one should prepare to defend it. And even in the throes of war, one should prepare for the demands of peace. Make allies with the enemies of your enemy, and be not too rigid in your demands. For life is like the dance of the dueling swordsman, all form, footwork, and poise, where most of the battles have been won before the blades strike. And finally, plan ahead for all eventualities, and have a backup plan for the complications that you did not expect to face.